Welcome to the debate. It is Wednesday, February 4th, 2026. Today, we are putting the very definition of work under the microscope. We're staring directly into the engine room of the digital economy to ask a really fundamental question. Is the era of the human coder over, or has it simply evolved into something, well, far more powerful? We're discussing the massive shift from assistive AI, think back to those chatbots in 2024 that helped draft emails, to what is now dominating the landscape, agentic AI. We're talking about autonomous systems that can pursue complex goals, execute decisions, and manage workflows with what is becoming minimal human oversight.
It's a huge pivot point, no question. But the central question we're wrestling with today isn't just about the technology. It's about the people using it, or I guess being replaced by them. Are we walking into a golden age of orchestration where humans are finally freed from the drudgery of syntax to focus on pure strategy? Or, and this is my fear, are we witnessing the systematic hollowing out of the technical workforce? The data suggests we might be pulling up the ladder to expertise right as the next generation is trying to climb it.
And that is the tension. Exactly. To frame this, we are looking at the new 2026 Agentic Coding Trends Report from Anthropic. And, the headline finding is stark. Software development has fundamentally shifted from writing code to orchestrating agents. I'm here representing the view that this is a productivity multiplier. It empowers engineers to become full-stack architects, and crucially, it helps solve the chronic labor shortage by democratizing creation. We're finally moving from the how to the what.
And I'm here to argue that this so-called multiplier comes with a very heavy hidden cost. I believe the automation of entry-level tasks is creating a mid-career squeeze and a real crisis of competence. We are risking a future of fragile systems filled with what Gartner has started calling work slop, overseen by a workforce that is, frankly, losing the ability to understand the very machines they're supposed to be directing.
Okay, so let's start there. Let's begin with the transformation thesis. To understand where we are in 2026, we have to define agentic AI clearly, because I think a lot of people are still stuck on the 2024 definition. We aren't talking about a smart autocomplete anymore. The Anthropic report describes this as a silicon workforce. We've moved from deterministic systems, which rely on explicit logic, if this happens, do exactly that, to probabilistic systems that learn, adapt, and make judgment calls.
And that shift from deterministic to probabilistic is precisely where the danger is. You're trading reliability for capability.
Or I'd say you're trading rigidity for fluidity. The big shift this year is that single agents have evolved into coordinated teams. We aren't just asking a bot to write one Python function. We're now seeing agents work for days autonomously to build complete systems. They plan, they execute, they debug their own code, and they deploy. And the economic implications of this are massive. The World Economic Forum is projecting a net gain of 78 million jobs by 2030 because of this shift. And just look at the salaries. New roles like AI architect or AI ethics lead are commanding wage premiums of up to 56%. The market is signaling that value is shifted from syntax, knowing where to put the semicolon, to strategy.
I see the macroeconomic forecast, I do. And net gain always looks good on a PowerPoint slide. But let me give you the perspective from the ground level, inside the engineering departments. The specific impact on current IT structures is, well, it's devastating. We're looking at a full-blown entry-level crisis. Data from the IT support group shows demand for junior programmers has dropped between 25 and 27% in just the last 2 years. Level 1 IT support demand, that's down 38%.
But isn't that just efficiency? Why should a human spend their career resetting passwords or writing boilerplate code?
Because that is how they learn. It's not just about efficiency. It's the decapitation of the career path by automating these stepping stone jobs, debugging, writing unit tests, handling basic tickets. We are breaking the very mechanism by which juniors become seniors. You can't orchestrate a system you don't fundamentally understand. And you can't understand it if you never did the grunt work. And beyond that, we have to talk about work slop.
A colorful term, but is it accurate?
It's a necessary term for a real problem. It's low-quality, AI-generated output that looks functional on the surface, but is structurally unsound. It's bloated, it's inefficient, and it's everywhere. Humans are now spending hours just fixing this slob. So in many cases, we are completely neutralizing those productivity gains because we are drowning in mediocre, unoptimized code that no human actually wrote and therefore no human fully understands.
I'm not convinced, because that assumes the only way to learn is by doing rote work that machines are now objectively better at. We used to have elevator operators. We don't say people forgot how to get to the 10th floor. Let's look at the capabilities we're actually seeing in 2026. The Recruiting case study in the Anthropic report is a perfect example. They used Claude Code to implement a complex method in a library of 12.5 million lines of code.
Hold on, 12.5 million lines? That is a massive code base to just let an agent loosen. That's a recipe for disaster if it hallucinates.
But it didn't. The agent finished the job in 7 hours with 99.9% accuracy. A human team would have spent weeks just understanding the dependencies. No human team could move that fast with that precision in a code base that massive. This isn't work slop. This is surgical precision. And this brings us to the concept that's really shaking things up: vibe coding.
Vibe coding? I shudder every time I hear that term. It sounds like something from a viral video, not an engineering manual.
It is a controversial term, I'll grant you that, but the utility is undeniable. Vibe coding is where developers, or even non-developers, describe functionality in natural language. They describe the vibe, the intent, make the button pop more, or make this search feel faster. The AI handles all the syntax. This democratizes coding. It lets the sales team build their own tools without waiting 6 months for the engineering department.
See, vibe coding sounds liberating until something breaks. You're describing a scenario where the orchestrator doesn't actually know the underlying logic. So how can they effectively evaluate quality? If you don't know what good code even looks like, you're completely at the mercy of the model. We know that while AI handles about 60% of coding now, it introduces massive technical debt, and it still hallucinates.
But the hallucination rates are dropping significantly with the new agentic frameworks. The models are fact-checking themselves now.
Dropping but not zero, and when it does hallucinate, it does so confidently. It requires rigorous expert oversight. My concern is that by democratizing code creation with vibes, we are flooding our systems with unmaintainable software. We're building a house of cards while shrinking the pool of experts who can fix it, because we stopped hiring juniors 3 years ago. Who fixes the vibe code when the vibe goes bad?
That's an interesting point, though I would frame it differently. I don't see the pool of experts shrinking. I see the definition of expertise changing. We're moving from syntax experts to system experts. And this brings us to the mid-career squeeze you mentioned. You're worried about the professionals with 5 to 10 years of experience.
I'm deeply worried about them. This is where the pain is most acute. These professionals are too expensive for the routine tasks AI now does, but they often lack the high-level architectural experience for the senior roles. Gartner has predicted that 20% of organizations will use AI to flatten hierarchies this year, eliminating over half of middle management positions. It's a hollowing out of the tech middle class. If you aren't a principal architect and you aren't a cheap AI agent, where do you fit?
You fit by evolving. This is a role transformation, not an elimination. Engineers are evolving into product managers and system architects much earlier. We're seeing a huge rise in MLOps and AI governance roles. The human in the loop is still essential, but their focus shifts from doing to reviewing and directing.
But can you direct what you haven't done? Can you conduct the symphony if you can't read music?
You can if the instruments play themselves and you just need to set the tempo. Look at Fountain, the workforce management platform, real-world example from the report. They used hierarchical multi-agent orchestration to cut staffing time for a customer from weeks to just 72 hours. They didn't fire their staff. They repurposed them to manage that orchestration. They created value. The humans became the conductors of the orchestra.
That's the optimistic view, and good for Fountain. But let's look at the operational reality for most companies. We're moving toward what proponents are calling zero-ticket IT environments, and I think that term scares more people than it excites.
It's a tremendous advancement. Let's explain what that means. Traditionally, a problem happens, a ticket is created, a human picks it up. It's reactive. In a zero-ticket environment, the AI detects an anomaly, say a server running out of memory, and fixes it before a human even knows. It's proactive. ServiceNow and Pearson studies show sysadmins saving 12 hours a week. That's time being redirected to strategic work like cybersecurity.
I'm sorry, I just don't buy that it's all waste. Those routine tickets were how sysadmins developed intuition. This creates a fragility risk, what we call the collaboration paradox. If humans are only called in for novel, catastrophic edge cases, they may lack the daily muscle memory to solve them. They're like pilots who only fly during a hurricane, but never touch the controls in smooth air.
But pilots rely on autopilot for most of the flight precisely so they are fresh for the difficult landings. You don't want a tired pilot hand-flying across the Atlantic.
But they learned to fly manually first. They spent thousands of hours in Cessnas before they got into the Boeing. If we stop training the manual skills, the intuition fades. And what's more, Gartner points out that fewer than 1% of layoffs in 2025 were actually due to proven productivity gains. A lot of these cuts are just based on hype. Executives are cutting staff assuming the zero-ticket future is here, when in reality, they're just leaving themselves understaffed for when the system goes down.
I think we have to distinguish between short-term corporate cost-cutting and the long-term technological trajectory. The trajectory is clear, but I want to pivot to a darker side of this we need to address: trust and hiring. You brought up candidate fraud.
Absolutely. This is the candidate fraud arms race, and it is warping the hiring market completely. By 2028, it's estimated that a quarter of candidate profiles could be fake, generated by AI. We're already seeing candidates using AI to write their resumes, to answer coding tests, and in some cases, using real-time AI to do the interviews for them.
And on the other side, companies are using AI to screen the resumes. So it's bots talking to bots.
Exactly. It's a hall of mirrors. Employers are being forced to return to AI-free physical assessments, flying people into an office just to verify that a human actually has the skills they claim. It creates a deeply distrustful environment. How can I hire you if I can't trust you wrote the code in your portfolio?
Yeah, I agree that fraud is a huge risk, but I see it as a market signal creating demand for new trust-based roles. Digital provenance, authenticity verification. These are becoming massive fields. And, interestingly, this supports my argument. We are seeing a tech true trades phenomenon. 62% of disrupted white-collar workers are now considering skilled trades.
You see that as a positive? That feels like a retreat.
I see it as a healthy rebalancing. For 20 years, we told everyone learn to code. Now the market is correcting. Work that is irreducibly human, whether that's high-level AI architecture or physical trade work like plumbing, is gaining value. You can't use an AI agent to fix a burst pipe in your basement. The market is correcting for the fact that we over-indexed on rote digital tasks that machines can now do better.
That's a compelling argument, but what about the societal cost? Telling a mid-career software engineer to become an electrician is not a solution. It's an admission of failure in our reskilling pipelines. You can't just take a 40-year-old React developer and tell them to start wiring houses. That's a generational loss of human capital. We spent decades building this intellectual infrastructure, and now we're saying, actually, go turn a wrench.
Look, the transition is turbulent. I'll grant you that. We're in the messy middle. But fundamentally, we're moving from writing code to solving problems. The AI premium in salaries proves the market values these new skills. The future belongs to the AI-augmented developer who uses agents to gain superpowers, not the purist who refuses to adapt.
And my closing thought is this. We are risking a competence crisis by removing the training ground for new engineers. Efficiency at the cost of understanding is a dangerous trade. This hollowing out of the tech middle class requires immediate attention to reskilling, not just blind optimism about orchestration. If we don't figure out how to train the next generation of architects, we will have amazing AI agents and no one left who knows how to fix them. We're building a black box, and we're forgetting how to open it.
It seems we agree on one thing, then. The very definition of technical expertise has fundamentally changed in 2026. The days of the solitary coder are gone. We're in the era of the orchestrator.
Indeed. And the listener has to decide. Will they pivot to become an architect of agents? Or will they find value in the human-centric tasks AI can't touch? That choice is no longer optional.
A question for every career path. Thank you for listening to the debate.